Hey, what's up, class, and what's up, YouTube? So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm basically going to read one of my most recent responses to two of the readings. One of them was on introducing identity, and the other one was making sense of teen life. So here we go. These are my reflections on introducing identity. Before reading the article, my view on identity was like that of Richard Jenkins. Social identity should be seen not so much as a fixed possession, but as a social process. Buckingham outlines theories stemming from sociology and psychology and also talks about the role of technology in the development of identity, both social and personal. What I take from this is that identity forms from a combination of factors based in technology, our use of it, and our familiarity with it, cultural factors, personal factors, and sociological factors. The distinction between identity and identification is also useful. However, what one identifies with is telling of one's identity. This has been suggested by people who speak of group identity. Overall, this summary of the different sides in the discussion on identity was enlightening and thought-provoking. Identity, like many things human, is quite complex and hard to pin down in any simple manner. Given the nature of the views expressed in Buckingham's summary, can we conclude that identity is ultimately an elusive concept? In other words, is identity nothing more than an intuitive object that is seen when looking at ourselves and others, or is it something concrete that can be explained in a coherent account? So what follows is my reflections on making sense of teen life. My thoughts will center on the following fragments, but for different reasons. Internet-only ethnographic research may have value, but as other scholars have highlighted, recognizing continuities between online and offline contexts and taking context into consideration is essential, even when trying to understand mediated practices. Teen life is increasingly intertwined with technology. The traces that teens leave through technology are not rich enough to convey their practices. Much to the surprise of many adults, teens actually care about privacy and take measures to make accessible content meaningless to outside viewers. The first fragment may help add another layer to our YouTube project. As Boyd discussed, there will be some difficulty in engaging black teen girls. There's the stigma of not talking to strangers, and as alluded to in the second fragment, a need to take measures that ensure privacy. The second fragment is interesting for another reason though, namely participatory culture. This need to take measures to make accessible content meaningless to outside viewers seems to imply an in culture that perhaps takes pride in not letting outsiders in, at least not easily. Thus the question that immediately arises, given these brief thoughts, is how do we begin to engage black teen girls in order to add a much needed layer to our research? Can you see aspects of this? And are there aspects you can only see from quantitative or qualitative research? How do we get girls to learn from this stuff? The first question was somewhat answered in the previous section. I do see these aspects in our research. Research may illuminate these aspects, but, and I speak for myself, I've always questioned what seems to be an impersonal approach, digital ethnography, to what is obviously something more personal, namely field ethnography. Thus, I find it crucial to add a layer of field ethnography to further our research. Before getting girls to learn this, we have to be sure they're literate enough. Boyd alluded to the illiteracy she sometimes finds among teens. Learning anything requires a certain degree of literacy, so the first step, in some cases, will be to get them more interested in literacy, and perhaps providing them with tools to help them along. Otherwise, we can simply stir their interest in such topics. I think some of them may be flattered by the interest people have taken in them, their cultures, their behaviors, and so on. So, Dr. Danah asked me a question based on this response. Her question was, okay, the question was, how do we use our project to teach them literacy? Um, my answer to that would be that I'm not sure it's possible to teach them literacy through the project. But what the project can do is teach them to value literacy, teach them to want it for themselves for different reasons. Perhaps to understand some of the readings that we've come across in the class, or to understand themselves or their culture better, or to just understand the aspects that people have, the perspectives, I would say, that people have of their cultures, different points of views. Um, so we can teach them to value literacy. We can't teach them literacy per se because that's something that's more in the educational system. It takes years upon years to acquire literacy, starting from basic reading comprehension in grade school and so on. But they can definitely learn to value literacy, um, in a sense, to value these point of views that people have of them, have of their culture. And that goes back to that possible flattery that I mentioned in the end there. That if they are flattered by the interest people are taking, then they will want to better understand this interest. And in order to do that, they have to value literacy. And I think that that's one thing that we could bring to the table. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on those readings. That's my answer to that question. Thanks for watching.